in this department, since to understand the ridiculously cosmic extent of his feats, you kinda just need to look at the screen. Here we have him punch a plant-sized dude to smithereens. Here we have him punching galaxy-sized celestial bodies away, and here we have him curb stomping the creator of all things in his base form. In contrast, with Kratos, things are more like this. He beat the Olympian gods, which beat the Titans, which in turn beat the Primordials, and the Primordials supposedly created the entire universe just as an after effect of their fight. Therefore, Kratos also scales above his creator deities. This method I just described is called chain power scaling, and the part that makes you go whoa doesn't fully kick in on screen. You kinda need to, say, watch an explanation video like Official Divines or mine to fully get it. Asura's power levels are, to this character, very straightforward. The problem kinda comes with Quake, and a considerable discrepancy between what's shown on screen and what's told within lore. For example, you got stuff like, quote, Kratos has infinite speeds because he defeated Hermes, and Hermes dodged Helios' light, and Helios' light lit up the infinitely sized underworld. And look. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible or that it doesn't feel right is anywhere near an objective metric for power scaling. But things do get kinda iffy when it all hinges on one single adjective or one single place stated as infinite in one single artbook, and with zero on-screen feats to back it up. This is actually something I found while writing this script, but the Greek underworld in God of War is stated to have an edge in lore, which I'm sure you can understand would not be the case if we were talking about an infinite space. So if you want to argue infinite speed Kratos, you might want to look elsewhere. Or, you could take in consideration that Asura's own underworld, aka the Naraka, is stated in Extra's menu to also have infinitely long pillars that Asura climbed out of to return to the living, technically granting both characters infinite speeds if you want to interpret it that way, which would make speed a non-factor in this debate, a non-factor entirely in this debate. We also see Thor being able to kill Kratos on screen. Get a statement, Thor splintered the World Tree which held the 9 realms. So does that mean that each one of these blows is the might of 9 universes at once, despite the ground beneath them remaining perfectly stable? We never see a single character even shake a planet. Side note, shaking a planet won't make you planetary, by the way. Same way shaking a person doesn't mean you can kill them with your bare hands. Bruno Velasquez, the senior director of the series, is kinda infamous amongst God of War power scalers because, like, did the Primordials actually create the universe? No. Apparently just the Greek world, aka the geographical area known as Greece, while the Norse one was made by the Norse gods and yada yada. Because yeah, according to Bruno, the Greek and Norse realms and other mythologies are only geographically separated, not universally so. I mean, I always thought that it was the former, since Kratos traveled from Greece to Scandinavia by boat, even taking a quick break to Egypt in the comics. You can even find in-game Greek ships washed up in Midgard. Mimir the Tolkienite is from a far off Scottish land. The very creative director of God of War, Cory Barlog, supports the mythologies coexisting on the same planet.
The mythologies exist on this planet simultaneously. They're all creation stories that date all the way back to the beginnings of the planet itself, but these are the culture's sort of creation story of that culture. But they are sort of simultaneously coming up in different geographic locations on the Earth.
Bruno went on to say, describe a civil war between 3 factions to establish whether Kratos even stands above planetary or below. Meanwhile, for Asura to be a Star Destroyer, I literally just have to point towards the scene where he literally does that. They have a mountain of similarities narratively, but they couldn't be on more extreme ends of the feats versus statements charts, prompting Asura to be nicknamed, quote, Featsman by many. If you really wanna keep eyeballing Kratos, why can't both him and Asura be on the same tier of strength? I mean, they allegedly both scale above beings who created the entirety of existence. And they both fought beings whom you could argue possess infinite strength. Asura, as I probably went over at nauseam by now, regularly yeets giants from Earth to space with his mere hands. When Kratos fought a giant, aka Kronos the god of time, who defeated his father's Uranus, the most powerful primordial god, the quote-unquote boss fight mostly consists of the latter looking for the former, who's essentially an anti-comparison, then he decides to eat him and Kratos promptly cuts his way out. I'm not entirely sure if this counts as killing to Kronos, if I'm being honest. I mean, sure, it did beat him, but like, you remember how the boys couldn't kill the invincible guy and had to blow up his innards instead? That's what I'm referring to. I don't think Yui killing Transparent means he scales above them, you know? That's without getting into how he didn't even kill Uranus with his own strength, but by a stone specifically created to do the deal, which further strengthens my Yui comparison. Kronos is also used to justify the infamous infinitely fast Kratos, usually with statements that go along the lines of Kratos killed a being who literally created time, aka Kronos, who could move without the existence of time, aka infinite speeds Kratos. With all the love in the world, this guy is not moving at infinite speeds. And while Kratos is said to hold back to avoid ending another world again in Norse Saga, there are many times in the story where such unbelievable speeds would have come in handy. That Kratos beat Kronos when he was chained up and weakened millennia after his prime, it is the same as beating the big Kronos who punched the Primordial so hard that it created the universe. Is kinda iffy. What do you mean Kratos scales to the speeds of a shockwave? The spell of Zeus that was gonna become Kratos didn't even exist at this point. If Atlas, aka another God of War giant, really did have the power to destroy the infinite Cosmos plus Underworld combo simply because it's what he was living at the time, why would he need to destroy the World Pillar in order to do so? His energy output should be enough, no? Yet he specifically needs to destroy the World Pillar, so that'll stop supporting such Cosmos, which yes, he is able to lift, even with the help of multiple pillars himself. But if let's pretend that Quake and Azuzu have both, fuck the creator of the universe in particular, level strength. What about everything else? Intelligence. Range. Kratos undeniably can gain some ground with his Leviathan Axe, Dropnir Spear, and the Blades of Chaos, but this rarely is ever been put into situations that require hundreds and hundreds of meters of distance, let alone the same range of often cosmic distances that Asura deals with on the daily. Like, we're talking about the difference between a few hundred meters with ranged weapons and a few hundred planets with Berserker Energy Blast and the power of flying. Easy peasy W for the mechanical god of Wrath. Speed. As you can probably tell from my tone from earlier, I don't buy infinite speed Kratos. Don't get me wrong, the Spartan warrior can dodge anywhere between arrows to supersonic attacks, Zeus's lightning, and even kept up with the god of light Baldur, granting him a pretty comfortable spot in the relativistic range, aka light speed. For reference, Asura travels between galaxies from the Earth to the center of the universe in mere minutes. I've seen stats putting Asura all the way up to 1.6 quintillion times the speed of light, and he can move even during a complete time stop, which should actually put him in the immeasurable speeds range.
You didn't have to cut me off. I could never know we were nothing. I don't even need your love, but you treat me like a stranger, and I feel so loved.
Agility. I don't think this takes much pondering to figure it out. Stamina and regen. Asura's nature as a thousands and thousands of years old little war machine certainly helps, and gods in the God of War franchise are stated to not require sustenance like sleep, food or water to keep going. And while Kratos does have some slight regeneration on its own, I honestly don't see him fighting without his arms like Asura himself does, especially with the many of his comments regarding him being close at the end of his run. In contrast, Asura can arguably keep on going for as long as his rage does, and the only thing that killed him with a capital K was ending the source of the very energy that fuels him, aka Mantra. Lastly, and again, I will always mention this last due to its debatably canon nature, but Asura and Akuma have fought for 500 years, so yeah, another point to Asura. Next up, a trait that's as important as it is iconic for both of these characters. Rage Boost. In-game, Spartan Rage gives Kratos only a small boost during moments of high adrenaline and stress, while Asura's Mantra will just keep on going and going the angrier he gets as a natural part of his power. Active versus passive. In the span of one punch, Asura went from the creator of his universe not feeling a thing against the general's destructive form to nearly one-shotting him in his base form, even if Hex. Next up we have Hex. Death Negation. Finally, we have a category very unique for this matchup. Both Asura and Kratos crawl back from the underworlds back into the land of the living many times in their story. The difference is that Asura went from resurrected 12,000 years after the first death, 500 after the second, mere days on the third, and possibly mere hours and not minutes on the fourth. In the manga, he straight up revives a few seconds after being killed and getting his mantra reactor destroyed. Kratos does have a resurrection stone with him, but it requires the help of an ally, and this is a one-on-one. So, and I mean to reiterate this 300 times, according to my opinion and interpretation, Asura takes range, speed, agility, stamina, regen, rage boost, versatility, and death negation. Kratos takes equipment, X, and weaknesses. I had them overall tied in intelligence and strength, the latter being mostly because I didn't want to waste any further time into that scaling talk. And even if Kratos is stronger, at base, Asura has the means to close the gap. And one of the main things he shares with Kratos. However, at one point, Chakravartin takes hold of the QuickTime Events player input so that you, the player, can control him instead. And Asura did not give a solitary fuck and still beat his ass without the input of the player. Now, quirky game mechanic or Asura's way to transcending the very mechanics of the game is he? Because technically he's fighting the same force of nature that's been moving him so far, aka you, the player, basically fate, and still won. Depending on how you choose to interpret this, there might be nothing Kratos can do here. Because let's say you do think Kratos scales to beings capable of creating or warping space-time. that will still be one less layer of existence compared to you, the player, who resides in the fourth wall, and who Asura defeated.